Thanks for joining us for 5 on 5. I'm Joe Sullivan. Pleased to be joined by Congressman Bentz. Congressman, thanks for taking time from Washington, D.C.
It's great to be with you, Joe.
President Trump said he will sign an executive order to end mail-in voting. Do you agree with the president on ending mail-in voting?
Well, we've had mail-in voting for a long time, and for the most part, it's worked well. I will say that I introduced a bill, or tried to introduce a bill years ago in the Oregon legislature banning ballot harvesting, which I think is a huge weakness of mail-in voting. And sadly, my bill didn't get a hearing, which I think is extremely unfortunate. So I think there's a question I would be asking the people of Oregon: do they want to stick with mail-in voting, notwithstanding its frailties? And if they do, then it seems like I'll be doing what my constituents want and sticking with it. But if they don't, and if they want us to try to fix some of these problems, then I'd be with the president. But I got to say, and forgive me for taking so much time on this, but usually the means of voting is something left up to the states. And so I really want to make sure that this isn't the camel's nose in the tent or the slippery slope leading to the federal government trying to take over voting.
Given the staffing reduction at Crater Lake National Park, what steps have you taken to investigate this issue and ensure the park has the resources it needs?
Yes, I understood that since the lodge had burned down and challenges that the park faces when it comes to staffing have been brought to my attention. To be honest with you, I've been focusing more on fire and making sure that we had people available to do the work in the woods. I'm happy to report that we do, and that as we draw close, and I hope it rains there, but to put out some of the fires in your area, we'll turn our attention to staffing up at the park.
Crater Lake is in your district. Have you looked into that? They've lost a significant amount of people there.
Well, when you say have I looked into it, I've heard about it. I've not made a detailed investigation.
How do you respond to the criticism that some spending cuts like those to the SNAP program harm low-income families?
Well, it doesn't. And what people need to do is look carefully at the bill. That is an incredibly important program and one that we want to protect and we are going to protect. What we have to do, however, is to stop Oregon from handling the program so sloppily that it's costing literally hundreds of millions of dollars to the federal government each year in errors made by the state of Oregon. So the steps we've taken have been to place the burden on the state to do things right and not just to throw money about willy-nilly. We want to make sure that that program is protected. Is super important.
You've been outspoken about reining in government spending. However, this past January, you spent the most money out of all the members in the House for hotels, meals, and ride shares on the presidential inauguration from January 17th to the 22nd. How do you explain that?
It's easily explained. We had a staff retreat scheduled every year since I've taken office here in D.C., where we bring our staff from Oregon back to D.C. And what I would call out, or those haven't paid much attention, I suppose, but I'm in Oregon and D.C. is on the other coast. And so when it's time to bring my folks back, it's expensive, but it's extraordinarily important that the people on the West Coast know the people on the East Coast. What I did this year is I said, hey, let's move our retreat from December to January. So when the folks come out, they can help us with the folks that were going to attend the inauguration. And at the same time, if they wanted to attend the inauguration. But this was simply moving our retreat, which we hold every year, from December to January. And I would also say none of my folks got to go to the inauguration because it was all moved indoor and I was the only one that got to attend. But we had 1,000 people ask for tickets. So we were ready in the event that the matter had gone off as planned, which it didn't.
Lodging for this cost $16,300 for your group. Do you think that's a lot of money to spend on hotel stays for your group?
Yeah, so well, people should probably go back and check to see what it cost in the previous year. It costs more this year because, of course, there was the inauguration ongoing. But in order to make any sense of the number you just shared, you have to know how many people were staying and for how long. But you've got to have help if you think you're going to have hundreds of people show up that need to be shepherded around Washington, D.C. I also would point out that Washington, D.C. is a little bit more expensive than almost every place in my district. and certainly almost every place in Oregon. So yeah, it's expensive. I wish it wasn't, but if you're going to have a team that can work together and do a good job, you got to bring them together, and that's what our retreat is for.
We'll take a quick break and be right back with part 2 of our 5 on 5 with Congressman Bentz. I'm Joe Sullivan. Welcome back to part 2 of our 5 on 5 with Congressman Bentz. And Congressman, why do you refuse to do more in-person town halls? This is something we hear about all the time from the people who live in your district. They want more in-person town halls.
Well, of course they do, because they are members of Indivisible, a national left-wing group that organizes people to show up and try to take over the meetings by engaging in rude and so we say totally unproductive exercises. It's very sad, because I like in-person town halls, and of course I just wrote an editorial about this, which I think your station received. Certainly, if it didn't, you can certainly get a copy of it. I just wrote it a couple of days ago. It's been viewed hundreds of times, where I explain exactly how unproductive the group Indivisible, and I think it's in your neighborhood, has made these otherwise very, very productive exercises. Tonight, I'm having a telephone town hall. We had one a month ago, a little more than that, and 13,000 people were on the call at one point or another during the hour and 20 minutes or so that it took. 13,000 people. And that's the kind of involvement that I truly enjoy, and we'll be doing that again tonight at 8 o'clock here, and I believe it's 5:30 your time. So if people want to attend, go to bentz.house.gov/live, and love to have them participate.
The White House has said more sanctuary cities should expect action, including sending in the National Guard. Are you in favor of sending the National Guard into American cities like Chicago?
Well, so there's a question of whether or not that's actually legal. The ICE folks can go in. The question about whether or not the president has the power to send folks in for other reasons or to nationalize the Guard, those questions are being answered in court right now. There's a law that says, the Posse Comitatus Act, that he can't, at least unless there's certain situations where he's assisting, or the troops are assisting the immigration folks. I'm in favor of doing whatever it takes to enforce the law. And so if the law is not being enforced someplace and we have the authority to use other means of trying to keep people safe, then let's look at it and let's try to keep people safe and going out on the streets of Portland, for example.
We've got about a minute left. Is there anything else you'd like our viewers to know about?
No, other than I truly appreciate the opportunity your station gives me to appear and to talk and answer these questions. And I welcome them, and I hope that people choose to participate this evening and in my town hall. We'll have another one next week. And again, it's bentz.house.gov/live. So, Joe, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Congressman, thanks for your time from Washington, D.C. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more local news.